Age is just a number in front of self-learning. We all human evolved by learning, either through experiences, either by observation or through mistakes. There's a lot in the world to learn. No matter how much you learn, you still can't stop learning because there's so much to learn. It doesn't matter what your age is, where you're coming from. As long as you have desire to learn something, to do something in your life, you can. All you need right now in today's world to have a book, grab a book and work on yourself. Have an internet access which is totally affordable in today's world right now. Well, the video is going to be divided into 4 chapters. Chapter 1 is all about principle and theories. Recently I was reading this book, The Science of Self-Learning by Peter Hollins, and therefore the chapter likewise in the book will be divided into 4 categories. The first is all about theories and principle and the importance of self-education. Second chapter is all about interacting with information, how you approach the certain information to not overwhelm yourself. The third one is acceleration in your learning. I learn to read faster because there's a lot of things that we have accumulated throughout our learning period, or as a kid or even as an adult. It's still intact. There's nothing bad about it, but the thing is that it makes the process much more slower. Later we will talk in this video. The last but not least, how to set a goal, make a system, work through it. Potentially there's a lot of benefits of self-learning. I believe that everyone has their dreams in their heart to pursue some dreams. Either you want to pursue the subject like psychology, or there's a lot of things, either you want to learn maths or science or anything, or either you want to pursue your dreams of you have always dreamed of. It may be a filmmaking, it may be a sketching. You can do it by your own. Because in today's world, learning is way much more easier than back in 90s or 20s in the past time when internet wasn't a thing that time. Here's the importance of self-learning, and its benefits are massive. Unlike your traditional education, which really makes you close-minded and make you hate the idea of studying, even thinking about it make you feel easy because you have been taught in a way where fear is used as a motivator to make you study. You always been taught there is only one way to approach certain things and you have to do as told by teachers. But in self-learning, it gives you freedom, and freedom is the one thing that a human really craves for. You can dive as deeply into subject as you want because you are not limited by time, you are not limited by something. You have all the things that you need, and as long as the deeper you want to explore it, the deeper you want to know about it, the more you can go there, more you can research on such subject. There's no time limit to how farther you can go there, and no limits to what you can learn, and you can go much more deeply into your subjects than your college professor had time for. But the thing is that you are only limited by your own self-criticism, personality, and there's no one in between there. Learning, it doesn't have to be the ending point of education, but thing is that most of us view that way. But with the self-learning, you can develop habits. The next chapter is interaction with information. It has the subtopic, which has 4 topics each. Let's proceed with the first one, the SQ3R method, where S stands for survey, Q stands for question, R stands for read, another R stands for recite, and last one stands for review. Let's start. Why this method is important? Just to deal with the overwhelming large majority of school subjects, textbook are the core study program along with lectures and discussion. Behind this, all the completion, there is a teacher which is responsible to complete all these textbook. But when it comes for us to do it on our own way, because that's how we self-learn, because we are going in talking about self-learning here. But when it comes to covering something that we want to do by our own self, how you can approach textbooks which are dense, detailed, heavily annotated, and so long. The first step is to survey, just to get the general overview and make your mind sense of whatever that you are reading, what you are reading, at least on the surface level. These components include general instruction of the topic so that you can establish and shape your goal you want to achieve from reading that particular book. It's just like taking a look at the entire map before you set off on a road trip. You may not need all the knowledge at the moment, but understanding everything as a whole and how it fits together will help you with the small details and when you are all lost. Well, surveying means examining the structure of the work, the book title, the introduction, preface, section titles, chapter titles, headings and subheadings, and then proceeding to the next, that is question. In the second stage of SQ3R method, we are still not diving deep into that, but it's more deep than the first step, which is survey. In order to interact with the material in a more focused and efficient way, you need to take a slight closer look at the structure of the book and form a question that you want to answer here. This is based on your objective, whatever you have prepared after getting the sense of the book or what this is all about and what you can expect from reading the book. In the question, more precisely, there are that while preparing to read, you go through the chapter titles, headings, and subheadings and rephrase them in the form of question. It's more like a rephrasing the titles or subtitles, more like a question. So in your own way, said so that you are able to get the sense of what you can get from that topics. If you're reading textbook, the study question at the end of the chapter, those serve as excellent guides to what you are about to find out. So moving on to the next one, that is reading. Now this is stage where we finally dive into the material that we have been overviewing, or first and last, that we have been overviewing for so long. Once you got in the blueprint as what you can expect from the book, and you have some questions that need to be answered, and you look for that answers by reading it out, because that way you will able to be more engaged when you finally sit down and read. You're looking for the answers to the question that you have raised. In the next step, we have reciting. This is very crucial part. The main part I am really intrigued me, that was like this is literally about recitation. It's not only about reading it loud, but also about that whatever thing that you have learning, you rephrase them in your own words. Whatever you get, that the comprehensive understanding you have already have, then you try to rephrase them in a most minimum way possible, the most easiest way possible, either short, either long, whatever way you do it. Either you speak out verbally or loud, or either you highlight or underline the text, or you try to rephrase in your own way. The next is reviewing. This is the final stage. You must be familiar with the forgetting curve. Reviewing is the final stage of SQ3R method, and once you have done studying, you can't guarantee yourself that you may retain it forever you like. And in order to not let that happen, you need to revisit that again and again. Refamiliarize yourself with the most important points and build your skills at rising the material. You can use flashcards, you can use notes to simpler organization for everything that you have learned. It's all about tracking the progress of whatever you have learned or thing that you have learned. The next is kernel notes. Obviously we talked about that. Actually organize all the information that you have learned. You need to make a notes, and there is a more good way and efficient way to make notes. Here what you do actually is that divide the page into half. The one is right column and other is left column. In right column you are taking a very dense and detailed notes. The left column you are condensing it in the most easiest way. It's like a cue which reminds of whatever notes thing that you have written, so that you can organize them in your head in an easy way, and it's easier for you to recall. At the end of this, you draw after beneath of these two columns a line which separates both of them from the third one, and which is the section that is called summary. Here you will note down everything like in a most condensed way of all this right and left corner, that whatever you have learned throughout. The next is self-explanation. Yourself is all about yourself, and explanation is about explaining anything. In order to articulate whatever we have learned, we have to test ourselves, that blind spot, the knowledge gaps that we have, whatever thing that we had retrieved from that book or any kind of resources or anything that we have learned. It doesn't necessarily have to be perfect, but at least whatever we have learned should be there. To find that blind spot and establish a baseline of knowledge, self-explanation is important. Blind spots is all about when we don't realize what we don't know, but with self-explanation we will quickly learn what you don't understand. Framing technique resembles same as the self-explanation technique, but it's more about explaining someone as a teacher, explaining as easiest as possible. You might be familiar with the quote by the Albert Einstein, that if you can't simply explain it to the someone younger than you, just think that you don't really simply understood it on the first place. And in framing technique helps you to find the blind spot, just like self-explanation, and find out where you need to work upon and what you have forgotten so far. So here's a technique to practice this. Choose your step, write down an explanation of the concept in a plain English, find your blind spot, thing that you don't really know. Use an analogy, use any metaphor, a real life example that relates with that. This is chapter 3, which is sub-vocalization, and it's all about reading faster and retaining more. The more you read faster, you are able to get the information easier instead of the old methods that you were used to, which was consuming way more time, which you could have invested in other hobbies and feel really good about it, and you could have used that activity, you could have used that time for spending them with your family or beloved one, but instead you end up using them or learning. So instead, in order to save time, you're using this technique that is called sub-vocalization. What does sub-vocalization means? Whatever you are sound while reading the paragraph, there is something that you are sounding in your head. When if you feel like that you are just reading the book passively, you are sounding in your head. The problem with the technique is it's very slow. In order to not let that happen, here the technique that is provided by author to practice is that try to hum at the same time you try. Pick up the small phrase as small as you think you can, as long as you think you can, but it start with the small. Pick up the phrase or any sentences or paragraphs, and then try to visualize that instead of sounding in your head. Try to get the sense of the paragraph, because that thing will hinder your sub-vocalization. With a lot of practice, there will be time when you will get to the good level of not sub-vocalization. Then the next is train your eyes. In order to speed read, use a pointer, use a pen, or even your finger. Actually make your eye movements more smooth so that they don't get lost here and there in the paragraph, so that they move consistently. And second is peripheral vision, which is your sideways, looking more like a sideways here and there, left and right, sideways. When you move your eye, you need to focus on chunks of words instead of individual word. And that's why I use this method, which is like, this is a trick that you spread your hand as if you are made an aeroplane pose, and then you try to point out your thumb upside on the sky, and then you try to look at the thumb without turning your head. The wider your vision span, the more words you can process in an eye fixation, the faster you can read. The last strategically scheme thing is that not information is equal, and that's why we need a strategy to skim. We need to find out what is important for us and what is not important for us. And that's why what you have to do is that when you are reading some book, use this exercise to skim anything that you want and practice it as you go. First, start and stop reading 3 words from the margin of the page. By default, we always just start reading the first word on the left of the page and go all the way to the last word on the right, because we have been taught since our childhood. Here what you have, the trick is that start on the third word from the left and stop 3 words from the end. Peripheral sideways vision, peripheral vision just might pick up the first 2 and last 2 automatically, and this way you can even avoid the fillers. There's a very unnecessary words that are there, you will able to skip them in an easy way. This is the technique that you can apply. And the last is how to read a book. There's a 3 stages here. First is elementary, reading like a child, more about reading out loud or just going through individual sentences by sentences like a child. And second is inspectional, all about getting the sense of whatever the material you have, getting the sense of the book, whatever there is, and what's all about on the surface level, on the superficial level. And analytical reading is all about, and this is all about taking the book from the author's hand and make it your own. This is all about argumenting on the ideas, questioning on the ideas, figuring out by questioning that whether the thing that they have said is valid. And last is syntopical reading, which is about from the same book we are learning from different perspective. We are not preferring one or more book. We have this information, but based on similar information we also referring to other book as well. So these are the first step that you can derive from here and figure out your own system, that how can you read a book in a more efficient way. The last chapter, not least, which is skills and habit to teach yourself anything. The most prominent thing, the thing I really like, is plans, schedules and goals, and that's here what I'm going to be talking about. And plans, schedules and goals, what here is that here the examples of Benjamin Franklin was given, where he has majority of goals, which is divided into 13 virtues. He has set the goal and made that one statement whatever he have to do, and then measured that, track that progress. Instead of all together, he track one virtue at a week. And there is a thing that called SMART, which you can use to achieve your goal: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant and time based. You should be specific about whatever thing you are learning and what things we are expecting from that. Measurable, whatever thing that you have specific about, break them into parts, how much you want to give that particular thing. Read a book, then you have picked the specific thing, then you give 1 page a day. Then is achievable, what level of book you're reading, is that it should not be much easier to get you bored or much harder to overwhelm you. It should be at the intermediate level. And then R is, yes, it's relevant to you because I'm learning about something. And T, time based, in about 1 month I should have everything that we have learned. So there might be something that there is a thing that I find a lot complex here to digest the information. It really provided me the insight I needed for me to go in the self-learning venture. I'm here in the video, I just want to say that don't aim for perfection, instead that aim for little things that you can do the bare minimum to improve that, because until you will not do one thing, you will never get the sense of what you should improve on. If you feel stuck, if you feel uncertain about, because this is journey which is not going to be easier at all, because it is something which is going to pay off for your whole life. You're doing that, therefore there will be confusion, there will be uncertainty, and there will be times when you feel you're doing good, and there will be times you will feel like you're stuck, not progressing over time, you feel like giving up. The thing is that you have to keep going until it start to make sense. Never ending process. Thing is that it's just a temporary phase of learning, not a whole of it. While most people fail in this process, if you stay there, there's going to be payoff. I might have done a lot of mistakes here, I do apologize for that, and I'm sorry for everything that I have uttered or I have missed out of the chapter, because I have lived a lot of things that I don't find helpful for myself. So if you find this really helpful, comment, and whatever the mistakes that I'm making, also do comment. This is my first video, so it's not going to be good, but I will do get better with the time. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.